This entire animation is driven by just a noise texture, and once this is set up, everything just moves automatically. So in this video, I'll show you how to build this using geometry nodes step by step, and it's actually very simpler than it looks. So let's start from the scratch. Alright, so let's start by downloading the model. You can use any model you like. In my case, I'm using Blender Kit to download the one. Now before moving forward, let's quickly break down what we are going to do. First, let me add a plane for better understanding. Now as you can see, we have a simple plane mesh, and if I subdivide it, we got more faces and vertices, or you can just think them as a point. So what we are going to do is replace these points with our model, or basically each point will have one instance of the model, or you can say we will put this model in each of the point of this mesh. And the interesting part is, if I move any point, the model placed on the point will move along with it. So now let's jump into the geometry nodes tab and click on new to create new setup. After that, we don't really need this group input node, so I'll just delete it for now. And instead, I'll add a grid. You can basically think of this as a plane. Now I'll switch to wireframe view so we can see the geometry more clearly. And as you can see, we don't really have enough vertices right now, so there isn't enough geometry to place our model on. So I'll just bump this up to around 20 or 21. And now we have enough faces. As you can see, the geometry is much denser. Now to place our model on these points, we can't just drop it there directly. So for that, we use a node called instance on points. Or in simple terms, we can think of this as model on points or mesh on points or whatever you like. It basically takes the model and places it on every point of the mesh. So wherever we have vertices, the model will appear there. I just realized that our model has multiple separate meshes, so we have two options here. We can either join everything into a single mesh, or we can just put the whole model into a collection. I'll go with the collection method. And now what you can do is just drag the collection into the geometry node setup. Pretty cool, right? Now you might notice that we have an instance socket on the collection and also the instance on point node. So we can just connect these two and look at that. We have successfully placed our model on all the points using just few nodes. Now I won't waste your time. Let's move to the part where we actually animate the points. For that, we will use a node called setPosition, and now you might be wondering why we need this. I mean, the name already says it, but it lets us control the position of the points, and we don't have the option inside the instance on point node. After that, I'll add another node called noise texture, and I'll connect it to the offset of the setPosition node. Now you might be wondering why a noise texture, because it gives us values. It has blacks and white areas which basically represent values between 0 and 1, and we can use those values to control the position. So instead of moving points manually, the noise will do it for us. And something just happened here. As you can see, when I connected the noise texture to the setPosition node, everything just disappeared. Or it looks like everything moved up from its original position. And to be honest, this is a problem you will face almost every time using textures, because they already have some values. And let me show you what I mean. So we are in the shading tab, and I have a noise texture connected to the plane, and look at that, it already has some black and white areas, which mean it already has some values. So to fix this, we need to remove those values, and how we do that? We just subtract it, right? And yeah, that's exactly what we are going to do. We can remove those values by subtracting them. So let's add a vector math node. And now you might ask, why a vector math node and why not a normal one? So let me explain. You remember we are moving the points, right? Not the whole mesh. That's the only thing you need to keep in mind. Whenever we transform the whole mesh, we use nodes with gray sockets. graph. Basically, those control the entire object like move, rotate, scale. But when it comes to transform individual points of the mesh, we use nodes with purple sockets. These are called fields. So let's quickly recap. Nodes with gray sockets are used to move the whole object, and nodes with purple sockets are used to move individual points of the mesh. Alright, that's it. Now let's change the vector math node from add to subtract, and luckily we already know the exact value to use here, which is 0.5. And yeah, we are done with the setup. Now you can play around with the noise texture, but something feels a bit off. The instances are moving in all directions, X, Y, and Z. So to control that, let's add a combine XYZ node. Now you can choose which direction you want the movement in. You can use X or Y, but I'll stick with the Z. And that's it. Now let's move to the next part, which is controlling the noise texture. So for that, let's add a map range node. And don't worry, let me explain this. Do you guys remember the color ramp node from the shaders editor? Let's quickly take a look. I'll plug a color ramp node into the noise texture and start adjusting the values. And as you can see, the more I play with it, the more contrast the texture gets. Basically, I can control how bright or dark each part is, and that's exactly what map range node does. It changes the values we get from the noise texture, which means it controls the contrast of the movement. So now you can just play around with these values and adjust them to get the best results. So far so good. Now let's animate the noise texture so the cans change their positions as the noise moves. But how do we actually do that? Because as we know, in the shaders editor we have a mapping node which helps us move the texture, but we don't have that here in geometry nodes, right? So what we will do is we will add another vector math node and connect it to the vector input of the noise texture. Then I'll add a position node and connect it to the vector math node. But why are we using position here? Basically, you can say that right now the noise texture is blind, like it's blind. It doesn't know where it is, it doesn't know where it's standing, and it doesn't know where to go. But when I add the position node, the noise texture gets his eyes, and now it can actually see where it is right now, and it knows where it can go. So if we tweak the values of this noise texture node, the noise texture will start moving. Like now we give it eyes, now we also give it points, and so it can see where it is and it can go wherever we tell it to go. So what I'll do is I'll add a value node, which means I can control all three values at once. Then I'll insert keyframes from frame 0 all the way to frame 240. And if I play the animation, you will see everything start working. Now you can leave the tutorial here, or you can comment and follow along till we render it. Okay, so now we are going to work on the scene setup. Let me quickly add a camera and place it where I want, and you can choose any angle you like. After that, let's move on the lighting. I'll use a sharp area light on one side of the scene, and by the way, if you are new, you can also check out my lighting setup breakdown video. Then as you can notice, we have some dark areas on the front side of the scene and also on the other side. So I'll just use another area light or just duplicate the current one and place it on each side. These lights will work as fill lights for the scene. Once you are happy with the lighting, we can just render a frame and then jump into compositing so we can make it more beautiful. Then just hit new to create a new compositing setup and enable the backdrop. Then start by adding some sensor noise and tweak the values a bit. This will add a bit of noise to the scene so it doesn't look too clean or fake to the eyes. After that, I'm going to add a hue saturation node and increase the saturation a bit. This will make the color look more punchy. Then I will add a tune image node. Here you can adjust contrast and other settings, just like you would in an editing software. Finally, I'll add a vignette node. This helps the viewers focus on the center of the animation. Then just tweak the values until you get the perfect look. Lastly, I would like to add a bit of blur. So in object mode, I will add an empty to the center of the scene. Then I will enable depth of field of the camera and select the empty as the focus object. And finally, we are done with everything. Now you can choose the folder where you want to save the frames. Then just go to the render and hit render animation. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing. I will be posting more tutorials like this.